Press record. All right, hello guys. So I've got the amazing Nafisa Insan today, who is currently doing a PhD in public health. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's currently studying at Newcastle University. So I'm really honored to have her here. So the primary aim of this talk today is just to see how two people who are both Muslims, who are going into a doctoring field, but in different avenues. So Nafisa here has been taking the PhD route, whereas I'm going the medical route. So my first question to you is, what made you, I guess, go into the PhD route instead of the medical route?
So I guess initially it wasn't really I didn't really have PhD in my mind. I just knew that I was more interested in kind of research and like public health, looking at health from more of a wider perspective and more population based. So that's why I did my master's. And then I think it was just a very natural progression into a PhD. My supervisor suggested I apply for the studentship, and I didn't have any other plans going on. So I was like, I might as well apply and just see what happens. And I knew I loved research, so it wasn't like I was going to hate it if I got in.
Are you getting paid for this at the moment then?
Yeah.
So you said student, so is that like a payment that you get sort of to do your whole PhD funded kind of?
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so fees is paid and then I get like a monthly salary type thing. Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay. Do you have any questions from that?
Well, I guess similar to you. Why did you know you wanted to go into medicine and why?
Okay. Yeah, that's a first. So actually, my initial grad wasn't actually medicine. I actually was sort of split between a lot of different things, because even now while I'm in medicine, I'm split between wanting to do many different things in life, because there's so many interesting, cool things in life, and it's just sad that we have to sort of go into this sort of specialty thing. I think you might be able to relate when reading tons of books and so many different interesting topics. You're like, oh, might be able to do some PhD in this and this, and you don't know where you want to go.
Yeah.
So one of the things that helped me was I did sort of work experience and just taste experience and different things. And I found one of the big things was when you wanted to do something, for example, medically or clinically with someone, for example, even if you wanted to do chemistry, you always needed medicine to like do any clinical interventions, which then made me like, oh, okay, so I probably would have to do medicine if I want to do that side of research. And the beautiful thing about medicine is it opens a big door that until, like, if people don't fathom how big medicine is like, it's just it's just filled with opportunities that a lot of other degrees don't, like, you just can never open those doors if you don't have medicine. And that's why I kind of chose to go through a different degree.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because initially I wanted to do medicine as well. As in, ever since I was a child, I wanted to do medicine, or I wanted to become a doctor. But growing up, to me, I think that was all I knew. And then, so kind of leading up until applying for university, I had a work experience at a hospital. And I spent a week kind of shadowing doctors, shadowing nurses, and just really seeing like the whole hospital environment. And that's when I realized that I hated the hospital environment, and I just didn't see myself kind of in that environment, kind of talking to patients and stuff like that. But I definitely agree with you that medicine opens up so many doors, and you can kind of go into whatever direction you want. But for me, it was kind of, do I want 6 years of me doing something in an environment that I just don't like? So it was kind of weighing up that. So then I went into more of.
Do you know what your do you know whether there's this person, I forgot the personality thing, was like INTP and stuff like that. ING. Do you know what yours is?
Yeah, I don't remember the letters, but I was a protagonist. But I'm not sure kind of what that means or anything.
Fair enough. I forgot what that one is. So I thought, are you an introvert, or do you consider an introvert or an extrovert, or?
Oh gosh, I'd say I'm in the middle. I'm like, if I need to be, I'm quite confident, but usually I don't like to I wouldn't approach somebody randomly unless it was like an academic setting or somewhere I need to. Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. And I think that's similar to me. I think I would, like, for example, approaching you, that's sort of like, me going out my comfort zone. But I'd say pretty much I'm an introvert, which a lot of people are surprised by, because I do try to go out my way to speak to people, but I need that recharge where I just don't want to speak to anyone for a while. And then coming through to that, I mean, social media, that's been quite a big thing. You're sort of giving the world out there sort of all everything about PhDs, and what made you sort of start that route, and how did that come to be?
So initially it was kind of my supervisors suggested I kind of blog what's going on in my PhD, the highs and the lows, etc. So I started that through the online system like my university has, but I was like, this isn't doing much for me. It wasn't that creative. It was literally just like one of those bog standard
Reflection
portfolios.
pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm more of a creative person, but I don't get to be during my PhD as much as I would like to. So I thought this would be a nice way to kind of incorporate a bit of creativity. And then I think when lockdown hit, that's when it kind of really started into something a bit more than just a little Instagram blog. And it really helped me just to connect with different PhD students or just students in general, and just get motivated and inspired to keep going throughout the lockdown.
Okay. So now going to lockdown, what's the sort of challenges you've been facing with lockdown as a PhD student? Do you guys have lab projects, etc.?
No, so I'm kind of not, I'm more like computer based, but I did have field work. I was supposed to be going to Bangladesh last year.
Whereabouts?
Yes, end of so you've heard, you know of Maternal Aid Association, Ma? Yeah. So I was supposed to be kind of going to their health camps and collecting some of my data, and also just kind of seeing all the work that they do. That didn't happen obviously because of lockdown. So then I had to kind of push everything forward and change some of the research questions that I had. But yeah, it's just trying to adapt to it now and deal with what I've got.
All right, fair enough. Yeah.
What about you? Has lockdown kind of?
So with Birmingham, it's been interesting. So when in the first wave, it was like pretty much they stopped everything, and then we were redeployed, as in like we had the choice to be volunteer at the hospitals. So I didn't do it at Birmingham. I did it in London, in one of the hospitals, which I won't name because I have a very big criticism against that hospital. But the reason was because when I was at that hospital, it was absolutely horrendous, the situation there. I think when London gets hit, it does get hit pretty bad because they were not prepared for the PPE. We had to share FFP3 masks. It was disgusting. It wasn't like the sort of environment I could be in safely, especially because I was at home with my parents and they were susceptible. So I couldn't sort of work through during that time. So what I did is I worked with NHS one-on-one instead during that time. So that sort of took up most of that first wave of pandemic. And then we went back in September and we had normal rotation. There wasn't much disruption. So there was disruption in clinics. So we couldn't do much clinic work, but a lot of the wards were okay. So because everyone got sectioned off, so the COVID patients didn't interact with the non-COVID patients. So for the most part, Birmingham did a really good job to make us, interact with patients and get that experience. Now, at the moment, at this time, it is getting hard to get that patient experience again because a lot of the patients right now it's in a horrendous situation, especially at QE where I'm at, where they've gone above the first peaks capacity. And QE is one of the bigger hospitals. So imagine if the QE is already this packed, when it hits other smaller hospitals, it'll be even worse. And one of the things I'm doing at the moment is with Heartlands is looking at one of the research I'm doing is looking at the infectivity of when using like CPAP machines or any sort of aerosol generator procedures. And we want to see, does it actually, because what we found is with COVID, it doesn't affect you in the first, like you get the first spike in the first week, but then the viral load actually goes down, but you start to get sicker, which doesn't make sense. So we didn't understand, is AGP actually dangerous or not? We didn't actually have sufficient evidence to do it. All that evidence was from the SARS-CoV-1, the first sort of thing. So we don't actually have that evidence. We're just staying on the safe side. So this is now trying to collect that evidence. So we know that this is appropriate for healthcare professionals to be in, and they're not going to be in extra danger. There's a lot of interesting stuff. And I think the pandemic has opened up a lot of interesting opportunities. What about yourself? Has any opportunities opened up due to the pandemic?
Due to the pandemic, no. I'd say if anything, it's less because of conferences that were cancelled, and everything's kind of shifting online now. So no, not really. And I think most of my time just got occupied with trying to kind of adapt my PhD. So the first kind of 6 months of it was really me just rewriting a lot of my proposal and changing methods and creating new timelines. So really it was just kind of revisiting my PhD mostly and trying to do the best that I can. But yeah, that's really interesting though, because I feel like you're kind of, what year are you in your
Fourth
degree?
year now.
Fourth year now. And is it a 5 or a 6 year?
So it's 5 years, but I'm choosing to do a master's next year. So
Okay.
that'll take it to 6 years.
Okay, cool. So you're kind of like towards kind of like the later half, and to have suddenly been hit by kind of lockdown, where at such a crucial stage where you do go into hospitals and kind of that patient interaction is so vital at becoming a doctor.
There's a lot of memes about medical students graduating, about what they can do. I mean, it is fair game, because a lot of the stuff we would normally do with patients, we won't have that interaction anymore. So we would go in being a junior doctor, being like, I don't know what this is, or I don't know how to do that, because we hadn't had that experience. So I guess with nicer thing with PhD is it's a little bit more flexible. That you don't have lives on the line with that. I mean, you do if your research does really can do amazing things, but not sort of the same.
No, of course. Yeah. Exactly.
And so if you talk about now, let's talk about the sort of, if you don't mind, we're talking a little about the Islamic side of your life. So how has that sort of progressed as you went through your academic career? Do you think you've become closer to like Allah, or did you think you found that actually while becoming so academic, you found there was a lot of difficulties getting close to Allah, things like that?
I don't think I'd say either or. I think for me it was always just they both ran parallel, and one wasn't hindering the other in any way. I didn't feel. Yeah, I don't know. I guess a lot of my education was, in a sense, it didn't really interrupt kind of like prayers or like fasting and like the basic foundation stuff. So no, I wouldn't say either affected the other too much. Yeah. Nice. What about you?
No, I think for me it had effect, like because we go through, I think, a lot of the life-changing moments in life with a lot of individuals. I think for me it deepened my understanding of, so I wouldn't say I'm like one of the most religious people in the world, but I would say that a lot of the things that happened has made me deeper into the connections of religion and like what is available. And one of the biggest thing is when we saw patients that have essentially passed away. I think when I first got to examine, like it was it was a life-changing like moment, like examining someone that has essentially passed away, and then you kind of see yourself, like that would be you in a future, it's determined, like you will have that. And then you see this cold body and there's nothing there, and like right now I'm speaking to you, but this is just a vessel of me, whereas there's something inside possibly where I'm speaking out to you, and that's what's making us us. I think all of this sort of things start to really get on, like it really starts to really get to me. And I think there was a time where, especially after a certain individual passed away, it really hit. I think that process hit. And then taking that from there on, I think I changed a lot of my ways in the way I was doing. That's when I got involved in MA and things like that, because it was in third year. I remember like it was such a big change in my life, and that's when the COVID thing happened as well. But a lot of things were changing in my life, and that's when I really wanted to get involved in charity work and involved in helping others out. And I started to understand the beauty of so many different things in life, and I think it really helped me in many ways. I know there are a lot of people that get away from Islam as they get progressively more academic. That's why I ask, because they might think, oh, it's not the right way, it's this, etc., or they have a lot of doubts. So that's why
I completely
that comes into.
Yeah, I think kind of being in kind of like the research side of things, I have become more kind of like I search a lot more and I kind of question things a lot more. But I think if anything, that's made me become closer to Islam, because when I do kind of search things for myself, I do realize the actual kind of beauty behind Islam and why we have all the things that we do have. So kind of that research side of me has made me learn more about Islam, and not just kind of doing things for this because my mom told me to do it, doing really things because this is the reason why we do it. So yeah, definitely.
The next thing I want to talk about is work life. So I think that's a big thing when people are deciding, would I want to be this type of doctor or this type of doctor? What type of work life? I don't actually know what sort of work life PhD students have. It seems always quite intense from what I gather, but I don't know. Tell me your experiences, please.
Yeah, I think it varies, you know. I think different students probably have different work lives. I think someone who's more lab based would probably have more of a structured timetable than me, who I kind of do my work as and when I need to, as long as I get the work done at the time I want to. So some days I might literally be working all day, and then some days I might literally be doing nothing just because I feel like I've done all my work, or I've got a few more days left, I can do my work some other time. And I think in general, I'm the type of person, I kind of do everything that's important. I get that done, and then I'll do other things. So my work, I wouldn't say my work life is that demanding, to be honest. I don't feel that pressure. Sometimes, yes, like when I was adapting my proposal at the start of lockdown, that point was really stressful, and I was doing a lot of work. But now that I've submitted my ethics, it's a lot more relaxed. So I think it's phases, and I think third year, I imagine that's going to be really, really a lot more pressure because getting the write-up done. But
so what's happening with your results? Like, how are they getting collected? Is like, have you just given it to a third party to give you your results, or how is that working?
Yeah, so I introduced like a second research question, in that I'm going to interview and survey healthcare professionals. And so that's more feasible to do online. And then data from pregnant women initially. The MAR Bangladesh team are going to collect some of the more quantitative data. And then hopefully, if towards the end of this year, if I can go to Bangladesh, then I might go for like a week or two and see if I can do any more of the qualitative work.
Yeah, that'll be good, inshallah. So for after you sort of graduate, what sort of job prospects are there for you? So it's not, I don't think it's like sort of straightforward as like medics. It's quite varied as to where you can go. Do you have any idea, or what you're thinking about at least?
Yeah, so in general, there's kind of like two paths that we can kind of take. I mean, there's loads, but the two main ones, if you kind of want to stick to
the conventional,
is academia. So going on to doing like a postdoc and then lectureship all the way up until professor, or going more of the industry route. In terms of academia, there's a lot of criticism about the academic kind of job prospects. Contracts are not great, pay is not great, kind of when you're starting off anyway. Industry, I've heard, is just a lot nicer environment to work in. So at the minute, I don't know, I feel like I'm more leaning towards industry, but I really do love research. So if I could find something that was kind of in between, which there are a lot of, then I'd probably go with something like that. But at the minute, I'm just keeping my mind open to different opportunities and just seeing where it takes me. What about you, though? Kind of, you've kind of, your path is very structured, isn't it?
So it's sort of like you do medicine, and then you kind of go into the junior doctors, that whereas F1, F2, do your junior doctor. Everyone has to do that. So I know people say medicine 6 years, but in or 5 years, it's reality 7 or 8 years, because you have to do those 2 years regardless. And then after that, it's sort of free range as to what you want to do. You can either go and choose to do a certain type of medical doctor, but you can actually even choose if you want to take time out, which I would probably want to do, and do an F3 year, where you can do medicine on the side, where you do some part-time locum shifts, and you get paid pretty well for those. And then while you do those locum shifts, you can do other things, build up different projects and things like that. I think a lot of the sort of everyone's probably moving to that, because if you take that year out, it's a year out, but you still do medicine, you still work if you want to, but it's not forced on you anymore. Whereas there are specialty routes where you're sort of having to like basically do the whole run up, and it can get really tiring to just keep on doing medicine.
Yeah.
So as much as I love medicine, there is other things I want to explore in life. Like obviously, I've had a big because one of the biggest thing is I don't want to like one of the it was in a Friday khutbah, I remember, the fact that once we sort of it's the idea of legacy essentially. So once we sort of pass away, when we are buried, they'll only remember me for being a doctor. Oh, do you remember this doctor? That's it. Like they won't remember me on anything else or anything that I've created. So I sort of kind of in this phase where I'm trying to see what is it that I can instill, whether it be through publications, whether it be through private work, whatever it might be, is building foundations so that your name sort of lives on for the good, for your good parts of your life. And I think that's my aim, so like have that somehow instilled. And I think that's very difficult if you go into suddenly into specialty. Whereas if you take some years out, you have a little bit more time to build those things.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm not sure whether it's become a lot more common now, but I see a lot more kind of doctors who are graduating but kind of taking time out and kind of starting their own business or kind of trying something else out. I'm seeing a lot more of that nowadays, and which I think is a really kind of a nice thing, kind of like following kind of different routes. And
but I think you kind of have to. That's the thing, is sometimes it's a nice thing, but sometimes for a lot of doctors it's you have to, because let's say the work-life balance for with family. So right now I'm okay because I'm not with anyone, I'm not married or anything like that, so I don't have any sort of extra financial worries. But when you get older and you do get married and you have extra financial worries, where if you have an extra business or something on the side, if anything happens with you in life, in medicine, whatever, you've got that to just support you and your family. Now, obviously, that's assuming that your wife's not working. Your wife might be working as well, but it's just giving you that safety net, essentially. And you don't get that with medicine, or I think with any sort of degree, really. But if you build some sort of, I mean, with the internet now, it's giving you this big opportunity to basically make any content and sort of monetize it as well. So I think that's the big thing that has changed, and it's really good to see that we have that option to sort of monetize things.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's really nice to see.
And are you interested in sort of like the business side, or do you think you might go into business in the future?
Yeah, I think I would. I've always been kind of, and I remember ages ago when I wanted to start my own like bakery business, but then that kind of died down. I'm not sure why, actually. I'll have to start that again. But yeah, no, I think I definitely want to do something on the side. I can't see myself kind of working that 5 times a week, 9 to 5 job. I just can't see myself doing that. So yeah, definitely. I'm not sure what yet, but
bakery is not a bad shout. I think there's a lot of people that love the sort of the bakery Instagram sort of community. You see the whole like amazing things that they create, and I think it's quite cool that what they do. So I guess you've got to go soon, that's why. So any final comments, anything you want to say to the future people about doing PhDs? Anything you want to say?
I'd say kind of think about kind of whether you do want to do a PhD, and I think probably goes the same with medicine. It's a long course. In the UK, it's like 3 to 4. In other countries, it's a lot longer, like 5 to 6 years. So kind of definitely do think about why you want to do a PhD, and specifically think about the research question, the topic that you're doing. If you're not interested in the topic, then you're not going to be able to spend 4 to 6 years doing research on that. So I think that's kind of the first thing you need to think about before even applying.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I really appreciate taking the time, and I know you've got other things to do now, but if anyone has any questions, I'll put your Instagram in the description, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll maybe in the future with Mar, maybe we'll meet somehow. It will be amazing. All right, brilliant. See ya. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.